I'm hoping that this marks a transition point for this channel into a new format that I want to try out. The new format is inspired partially by academic research, peer-reviewed journals, Shonen Jump manga, jazz, and a Ichiro Oda. How it is, all those things, I could talk about that for probably 20 minutes long, but I'll talk about it a little bit here. Like the music I'm playing in the background, some is going to sound like trash. A lot of times when you do jazz, like people are doing improv and it sounds kind of trash, but they're abiding by certain rules and structure that sometimes if they play long enough, even if they're bad jazz musicians, something really good comes out of it. And that little bit of good makes like the entire session of playing with other people worth it. The other thing is I want to think strategically. If I want to actually do this YouTube channel for the long haul, I want to do it something that I do a reasonable amount of time. That doesn't take too much of my effort because I have lots of things outside of this that I do. This is by no means some sort of full-time career passion. This is a very, very tidy side hobby I have on the side. But I want it to be something I want to do. That way I keep doing it over and over and hopefully it gets better. And then if community members who've followed my channel so far like it, then that'd be awesome as well. So my hope is that these videos effectively are almost like academic journals. They're going to be a hodgepodge of a whole bunch of information and articles put together. In our term, it'd be like a Shonen Jump tome. Like you get a monthly Shonen Jump and it has all these different mangas in it and stuff. Some of them you like, some of them don't like, but maybe one day you just want to have this surprise and this novelty. So you go through the entire manga and you're like, I just want to try something new. And then you see this and you're like, oh, what's this game, Megabonk? This sounds fun. Star Citizen, that's a new way you could play that. It's like, oh, Age of Empires 2 had an update? It's just random things like that that could, I don't know, spark some inspiration. Also, I think give rooms for collaboration to maybe for me to do stuff with friends and stuff in the future. I think about like Ichiro Oda, the reason he was able to make the series One Piece go so long was that he started with one key piece. He wrote in a Q&A that he wanted to start the entire series around a character that he would love to draw. One that he'd love to draw the first time, the one that he'd love to draw the 5th, the 7th, the 9,000th time that he drew him, so he'd never grow bored with the series. And for me, I want to create a structure in which I can do that. I want to create a structure where I can talk about Star Citizen, that I can talk about random academic topics that I'm really passionate about, that I've done research on. I want to do subjects about culinary and like Arby steak nuggets and how they're actually just like poor man's burnt ends and it's amazing. You can get them for $5 and you put a little bit of barbecue sauce on them. It's like a great lunch. I want to talk about random stuff and put it all in this hodgepodge. But I want to also acknowledge it's a little bit selfish. I'm making content that I like at the end of the day. But my hope is that from this sort of data lake, I can take a pail and then clip things that I'm like, I think my audience and I've seen people like in the past, and take it out, clip it, and then maybe put that on my shorts channel, and then try to make the short section on my channel be the sort of curated content I can draw on throughout the week. Because going through and clipping a really long form video doesn't take any work at all. I can do that for the long haul. I can do that once a week or so. But making one actually video that's like well researched once a month takes a little bit of effort. But if I do it just once a month, it's something I think is feasible. And that's my goal for this channel at this point. I want to create something that's new, that's fresh. I want to create my own academic journal that I would want to read if I had it. And hopefully it will provide something that's fresh, because I think a lot of times whenever I'm looking at analysis from like different sort of YouTube channels, sometimes it feels a little stale. It's like, this feels like this was the baguette that was left out yesterday that you ended up putting like the chocolate chips in and stuff to make it seem like it wasn't stale, and then you sold it, and I was like, what is this? I meant croissant, not baguette, but that's probably a little bit overdue. Anyways, I'm off topic, but this video is going to go over some things I've noticed from Star Citizen. We had CitizenCon this week. It's going to go through Megabonk and some thoughts I had on that. It's going to go through some Battlefield 6 text and everything I found, and it's going to go through some thoughts I've had about Arby steak nuggets. It's random. It's a little bit of brain rot, but I enjoyed making it, and hopefully you enjoy listening. You read that title right. I finally caved in and am trying head tracking with Gimbals. I have long time been only using mouse and keyboard and refused to use any peripherals, partly because I know that if I ever have friends and stuff who play this game in the future, I don't want the need for them to add any peripherals in any way, shape, and form to be a barrier from them enjoying Star Citizen, even at a competitive level. I've made enough YouTube videos and stuff to document that it is possible. So I wanted to go through and look at head tracking. The big reason is there's a lot of people I've talked to who would really like to fly this style with gimbals and stuff because they love heavy fighters, but they also love the immersion that playing with sticks and HOTAS setups provides them. And I have for a very, very, very long time believed that there is a possibility of someone being able to use head tracking to do manual gimbal. And from my experience of testing this, it is definitely possible. It is minimally viable, and if anything, it could potentially be even better than what I do with mouse and keyboard, because it allows you to do certain maneuvers you can't do on mouse and keyboard. So this required a lot of settings tuning and stuff. It took me about 30 minutes to an hour to find the right settings to work specifically with the Guardian MX, but it's a little unintuitive about how I was able to do this. So in order to make this work, I started off by basically removing every single quote-unquote safety feature. I removed everything that was like auto stabilization, auto centering, auto smoothing, everything that would take agency away from me to control the pip with not the pip, to control the cursor with my head. I then made it so that my sensitivity made it so that if I cocked my head in one direction or the other while I still had both my eyes on the screen, that it would move about 15 degrees to the right, to the left, up, or down. And then the way to actually fly this is actually fairly intuitive. If you have skills with playing fixed, which hopefully you do if you're playing on sticks and stuff, it's really actually easy. You cock your head in a single location, and it's like human heads are actually like pretty steady. So like you just put it and you lock it in position right there, and then you lock the cursor in that location, and then you play like it's a fixed ship. And you might be like, okay, why don't I just play fixed then? Well, there's a couple reasons. Is with heavy fighters, this effectively increases your cone of fire and allows you to artificially increase your turn rate. Farther, it allows you to potentially like account for rolling, which is sometimes difficult with gimbals and everything. And you can a lot of times track people's corkscrews with the manual gimbal without having to be focusing on rolling and spinning the whole time, which can be a little bit of discombobulating when you're also doing head tracking. So there's just a lot of benefits. This footage in the background you're watching now isn't what I did with head tracking, but I had more footage of it. This is me actually using eye tracking, which I wasn't quite as of a fan of, but it was good as well. Actually, this might still be head tracking, but I'm not sure. I had success with both of them. The head tracking, I thought, was the better skill ceiling, because you can minutely adjust your head tracking to track cursors and stuff. And if this was me in like 30 minutes an hour, you could do it much farther. Eye tracking, not so much. I don't think that's viable. But this is really cool because this is me just 30 minutes to an hour of practicing this, and I ended up going into PvP and doing a whole bunch of fights. And I thought about providing all those fights and everything, but I decided against it because that was going to be a barrier to me making one of these videos, because the editing to try to blur out all of the contact information on who I'm fighting, to try to filter out the ego that a lot of times can sometimes overshadow some of the analysis in dogfighting. It would take too much work with the head tracking because it wouldn't be static positioning. If I become a better editor, I might do it in the future and stuff. But I think it is really cool. This is a complete side note, but I think people, if you've liked or watched my videos in the past, I think you've helped contribute to a new almost format of Star Citizen PvP videos that have been becoming popular as of late. In the small community that is PvP, I hadn't seen people blur their kill feeds and stuff before I started doing it. but I'm sure there probably was someone that was doing it, but I've been seeing more and more PvP people adopt that style that I started doing a while ago, and I think it's really cool. I think it's awesome because it's not too hard to learn how to edit to do that and keep it looking good. Particularly in a dueling scenario, just that way people can really focus on the skill that's happening and not like who took out X, Y, Z or guy. And I think it also helps encourage people to play on their mains, so that way when you're fighting a lobby, but they're not afraid of someone just like clip farming them on the internet. That way people aren't just playing on alts all the time. So anyways, that's a quick aside. I just thought it was cool that I think if you watch these videos and like, subscribe, you made an impact on the Star Citizen community. I think whether or not you realize it in that way. I think that's just really cool. And when cool things happen, I like it to be acknowledged for people to know it. So, anyways, head tracking. This is very valuable, and the reason this goes even farther is, consider the following. I can do another video, maybe like a one-off special edition sort of issue video in the future on this, but consider how I usually do manual gimbal. If you look at my VJoy line on that screen and where my head's tracking, they can go in opposite directions. And when I normally do manual gimbal, I have to VJoy in the direction I want to aim. And what this means is that sometimes when I'm aiming, I can't maximally rotate my ship, which then means I'm not maximally using all my engine thrust to merge on a target or to extend from a target, which reduces my ability to fly my ship at a very, very high level. So especially in squadron battles, my ability to merge on a lot of targets is oftentimes very limited by this factor. So I get more nose on target time, guns on target time, because I have the gimbals, but I sacrifice the aim when I do this. But when I use head tracking, I don't miss out on either of those, and particularly in squadron battle, it's really interesting because a lot of times targets aren't naturally evading from you, they're evading from someone else. That actually becomes fairly easy to play this like a fixed player, to be able to pull a maneuver that you normally wouldn't, that's even one that you may not be able to pull in fixed because you're like doing this crazy pre-nose, but you're shooting at the person while doing the pre-nose to merge on them, and it's really interesting. Now, another thing I really would like to try, but did not have success with, was heightening my sensitivities on all my head tracking a whole bunch. I know that there's this thing called like camera boost and stuff that allows you to combine eye tracking with head tracking to really turn your head like 180 in the cockpit. But one of the things I thought would be really cool that I did some testing with is with the like Anvil Paladin and with the F8C. They have a turret on the top or on the sides that really allows them to almost shoot backwards. It's not quite backwards, it's not quite 270 degrees. I'd probably say it's like 220 degrees or so. And it really only works in the lateral axis. The vertical axes are a little bit challenging at times. But if someone was able to really master that with head tracking, that'd be really scary. So if you want to try something that's really experimental, I know I stumbled on this like Star Citizen Science Discord that looked really cool, and if one of those guys want to test this, that'd be awesome. The idea would be is to bind your head tracking to your pitch yaw, and then use your mouse to like actually do like the head tracking and aim. I think that might be possible because you could combine your head tracking to basically turn into a VJoy emulator or something like you're controlling like your Wii U emulated Mario Kart because it was discontinued or something. I don't know, but that's some more random science stuff. You can test how you'd like. So there's so much more. If you do want to see like this in action, I'm going to have this footage on my computer probably for another month, and then I'm probably going to delete it after that. But if you want to see some fights of me fighting some really good players with this, if you're familiar with the competitive scene, there's a ELO scene that some people in the PvP community use for dueling and stuff. I've been able to fight people who are probably around diamond level with success, but it was just 30 minutes to an hour of training this, and I was able to have more success with it. I was able to have as much success with it as I had with fixed, which is pretty major for me because I've had a lot of experience with fix, and if I'm trying this just out the get-go with no experience whatsoever and I'm doing okay as well with fix, that means that the skill ceiling is even higher with this. I think considering I haven't had any practice with it, so I think there's a lot of potential. Anyways, there were a couple of people who I was able to fight who were knife fighters and stuff who I was able to take out that were higher ranked, but they were one-off and they were really casual matches and that sort of stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a master at this wave mode at any means, but hopefully it's an encouragement that if you're a sticks player and you really want to fight with like a Guardian MX or a heavy fighter, and you're like, man, I don't want to use mouse, well, hopefully it is the sign for you to be like, oh, I don't need it. I just need to figure out how to do it. I use head tracking, and I'll become the best head tracking pilot of all time. So use your targeting computer. I don't know. I guess you're not using the Force at that point, so you wouldn't be a Jedi. But you become wedge and tail wings. Take out the second Death Star. Battlefield 6 is a crazy fun shooter, and I'm not always a huge shooter fan. I'm kind of into my shooters like I like drinks, which is usually only socially. I usually only play shooters if I have friends who are playing it, and it's usually just for a little while. But some of my favorite shooters of all time are really the Battlefront series, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but also Battlefield Bad Company, the original, and a couple of Call of Duties that came out before that. And Battlefield 6, for like the first time, I feel like really captures that sort of frontline, beeline combat that you got in those old Battlefield Bad Company games and in Star Wars Battlefront. So I grinded all the way through the beta and everything, and I grinded through the current patch, and I've tried all the different weapons and stuff that I can to really try to figure out what I find to be fun in the game. So when you first play this game and you open up and everything, one thing I would say you should do is go over here to the Challenges tab and come over to Assignments. The Assignments tab has long-running challenges that they don't expire, they don't go away, but gives you options for things that you can work on to unlock new weapons and gadgets that might really change how you play the game. One, for instance, is the Assault Class Squad Beacon. I've already finished it up here, so it doesn't show up anymore, but you can see that, like, recently I did the shotgun one where I unlocked this incendiary shotgun by getting a whole bunch of kills with Assault and then earning a ton of score. There's other ones like the Assault Squad Beacon that allows you to spawn on this beacon that you put actually down. And to grind it, you have to basically do a whole bunch of kills after you stab yourself with this adrenaline pin, which is really, really hard. And if you aren't like starting to try to do it as soon as you can, it can be a really grind if you don't conscientiously like work towards that. So there's other things here like the C4 and everything. Oh, here is the squad beacon right here. So very difficult challenge to go through. Other thing would be like the weapons here. Like for example, if you look at the SMG challenges, this SCW-10, this actually has the fastest TTK of any close range weapon other than a shotgun in the game, and you can unlock it fairly easily just by getting a whole bunch of SMG kills. And if you know that, you can get through a lot of them pretty quick. I did other ones like the KSK drone shotgun, and this is not worth it. Don't do it. Don't be like me and make this KSK shotgun your highest ranked weapon. It's a grind. Don't do it. So anyways, I was going to go through and show you a few of the tips and stuff that I found. One of the cool things is I found a couple of videos and stuff. If you want to find them, let me know and I'll show you links to them. But one of the things a lot of people don't realize is the level that some of these proficiencies of different classes have with their different weapons. For example, if you see here in the top left, you'll see that the engineer has SMG proficiency with SMGs. And if you go to like the assault, they have proficiency with assault rifles, which allows them to basically fire faster after sprinting. So for me, I really actually do like the SMGs on the engineer, but I ran into this difficulty where it's like the engineer is kind of only good at really big maps, the 24v24 matches. So I was faced with this problem where it's like, hey, I want to play the engineer, but I also want to play like on the CQC close quarters combat maps. And the problem is when you start the game, you only have like mines, and the mines aren't going to do anything towards that. But I found out that there's this weird meta where you could use this EOD bot to kind of preserve your KD that regens over time. And basically, you can use it while you're hiding around a corner to SMG shoot someone down, and then also use the RPGs to take out snipers' covers who are camping. So basically, what you can do is use this to take out the snipers' cover, use the EOD to scout ahead, and then once you've done both of those things, you then progress out of your camping, because I don't like camping. I like Titanfall and those kind of games. I was a really big fan of the first Titanfall. And the way I wanted to really replicate that is to make what a lot of people hate, which they call to be like Call of Duty gunplay, but it's maybe more like the newer Call of Duties, but not the old ones, but make a run and gun weapon. So, for example, if I was to pull out like an LMG like this, you'll notice that you see my crosshair. My crosshair is like giant. I'm not hitting this guy ever when I'm hip firing. And when I jump, my crosshair goes insanely wide. But if you actually take the SMG, this is the starter SMG. This is the SMG you start the game with. And if you did actually play the open beta or anything, one thing to note is if you click on this SMG, click here, you might actually have this SMG here unlocked, which is a pre-modified version of it that actually comes with the suppressor pre-equipped to it, which you usually don't get till like level 30 and actually helps a ton with this weapon because this weapon starts out pretty poor. If this weapon doesn't have like any attachments at all, like let me just go ahead and unequip all of these here, set that to basic, take off that grip, take this off. It's a bit uncontrollable, and the recoil is kind of high for what it is without accounting for recoil and stuff. It's decent for an SMG, but it doesn't feel good. But if I run this weapon here, you can actually get your hip fire up to 88. And the way that you do that is specifically you run the green laser, the 50 megawatt green, and you can run that on anything. You run the light you can run on anything. And then this is where it gets a little unique, is this has a short barrel, and the short barrel actually increases your hip fire. And what you'll notice though is this isn't actually present on every single one of the SMGs. Like this one over here, it has a light barrel, but it doesn't have a short barrel. So different weapons have some attachments that others don't have. And to my knowledge, I can't find any other SMG that allows me to get as high as hip fire because they don't have every single one of the attachments, like the short one here, to increase the hip fire stat. So, and on top of that, each of the weapons have a base stat spread like this here. This is the base stat spread at 46. So if you go to like the M4A1, for instance, though, you actually can get a hip fire spread at 90, but it has really low precision and control, and so you can kind of tap fire with the hip fire, but the sustain is a little bit problematic. Additionally, though, the M4A1 doesn't benefit from the engineer class. The carbines actually don't benefit from any class feature. They're kind of like a good secondary weapon for the assault class, but they don't benefit from any passives. This, though, actually gets the engineer's hidden passive, not the hidden passive, the one that says that it has 2 hip fire, so the hip fire width is actually goes even higher than 88. And you can look up videos and side-by-side comparisons, but it's a really helpful thing to keep in mind. Because now that I have my hip fire this high, and I make my control precision pretty darn high as well, the mobility stat is actually a little bit of a trap. This is an interesting thing to note. So if I take this mobility stat here, I have a 41 mag. Let's go ahead and drop this down to around a 30 mag. Just watch this. If I go over here, and I'm going to start firing, and that's my last bullet is around there, right? That's me hip firing and firing. Now this is me aiming down sight. You'll notice that you move slower when you're aiming down sight while firing. But now let's go ahead and go look at an LMG that has a similar rate of fire. This is like a 10 to 20% slower rate of fire. So I should get about 10 to 20% shorter than that distance if I hip fire. I guess, sorry, farther, because it has a slower rate of fire. And that's about 20% farther. So my hip fire distance hasn't spread at all, even though I have a much lower mobility than I was running on the other gun. Now, what you will notice though is that if I have this gun out and I aim down sight, I get even shorter than what I did with the SMG, and that's because the mobility stat only affects your strafe speed while firing. It doesn't, while aiming down sight, it doesn't affect your strafe speed while firing while hip firing. So it's kind of conflicting to try to prioritize both hip fire and mobility. It's kind of like a one or the other. So if you do a mobility stat build, you're focusing more actually on aiming down sight in close quarters combat rather than range combat. But if you're running a hip fire build, you're not focusing on aiming down sight. You're actually almost losing the benefit of running hip fire and stuff when aiming down sight if you're running that instead. So the cool thing about this though is that like a lot of LMGs, you can actually get a pretty high hip fire score on some of these LMGs like this one here, and then you can actually shoot pretty well. Compare that to the L110 that I was running earlier, and it's this is a huge difference. I'm not as big a fan of these just because the TTK is just high enough more, and I think there may even be a hidden like nerf to the spread because this spread just isn't quite as good. You can see it's missing a couple shots there before I get there, compared to if I use like an SMG over here. I use the SGX. This thing, beam, and that's just holding down. That's not even burst firing. If I burst fire, I can, I believe, even hit those ones down there and stuff if I do it right, which is pretty nuts. That was a little bit poor, but usually it does better. Maybe if I mix up the build a little bit. But, oh yeah, that's why. The reason that it's not doing that, it can do that, is because I took off the a couple of the pieces I was running on it before. So the cool thing about the SMG is if you actually run a hipfire build with this and everything, you can do a couple of things, which is also really nice. You can run a hand stop, which the assault rifles and carbines don't have, which allows you to fire and sprint at the same time. And you might be like, hey, why is this helpful at all? And the reason is that if you play as a class, as a different class, let's say you're playing as a support, and you have this, you'll notice that this is my, if I press the fire button, I just fire. If I sprint and I press fire, there's a delay. I have to pull my weapon up and then fire it, and I also slow down during that entire time. The nice thing about if I run the SMG here is you'll notice there's still a delay when I press the fire. I'll try it, click really loudly. If there's a slight delay. It feels a little less to me. It's probably the same. But the nice thing is when I start firing, I don't slow down when I start firing against the opponent. And this allows for some crazy things. I can actually start basically playing Titanfall. So watch this. I'm bunny hopping, and I'm actually sprinting all throughout the sprint. I'm never stopping sprinting. You could also do something like where you're crouch sprinting and you're firing. And you might be like, why the heck would I ever want to crouch sprint and fire? Well, one thing is it does make your footsteps a little bit quieter. Sprinting's still really loud. But imagine there's an opponent right here and they're holding this corner and they're aiming right here for torso, right? One thing you can do that's really unexpected is you can start pre-firing right here and then just go around the corner and shoot them in the ankles. Like super, super crazy stuff. You could do that. You could do a jump into a slide. So you could go here, jump, slide, and then you're still sprinting the whole time. 1, 2, yep, there you go, there's the slide. You can jump, slide, maybe you have to do it a little sooner. Jump, slide. I'm screwing up. You can do it though. I've done it a few times during matches, but I probably just need some more practice. I just unlocked it a little bit ago. The reason I haven't had as much practice on this is actually a fairly late unlock in most of the SMGs. So I think it's why it hasn't been talked about so much is it takes forever to get it. So if you look at this, like if I go to this underbarrel here, you don't get the hand stop till level 35. So until you've almost like fully unlocked it. So you might be like, hey, Alkaline, I've been hearing that the SCW10 and the KV9 are like the best things in sliced bread, that they have crazy TTKs even at medium to longer range. Why are you using the SGX? And the reason is that these two weapons are amazing dueling weapons, but they have really low mag capacity, right? And you might be like, okay, well, you can get a mag extension. You haven't been sweaty enough. You haven't grounded up high enough. And you're partially right. I haven't grinded them up high enough. At level 27, you get a 25 mag increase. But what you have to pay attention to also is how much the attachments cost. And this attachment here costs a full 45 to get almost a 10 mag boost up to that. And you go to the KV9, it's a similar thing here. This is a 45 cost. Now, on the other end of the spectrum is if you look at like the P90 over here, the P90 comes stock with a 50 round mag, and this actually has a pretty good TTK at longer ranges. It has a slower TTK, only I think being slower than the UMG 40 and the SL9 at closer ranges. Maybe it's actually faster than the PW7A2. But like this is a weapon I really like. This is all I ran during the 2042. I just dominated with the P90 and the 2042. And the ability to pre-fire bullets and stuff around corners and just rain fire while hip firing and stuff feels a lot of fun, and it feels like how an SMG should play. But it's going to feel really bad because when you play with this gun, it has such a slower TTK at close ranges, you are going to get beaten by KV9s and you are going to be beaten by SCW10s. Now, the problem with the SCW10 and the KV9, and also if you play this, you're going to get beaten by these other SMGs as well because they're around the same ballpark. SCW10, I love. This weapon is nuts. You can unlock it really, really quickly, and there's not a close enough target in here, but you'll notice it does 33 damage per shot here in the bottom right. But it actually does 33.4 4 damage per shot, because if you shoot someone 3 times and they're close enough to you, it's a kill with 800 rate of fire, which is absolute insanity when you run this thing. And the range fire is actually pretty good for kills. It's about five shots to kill. But the problem is when you're dedicating half your economy up here to this mag capacity, you're not going to be able to run hip fire. You're not going to be able to run different muzzle attachments, and you're going to be able to run things like suppressors and stuff. And these are really important things that really change how the gameplay works. Like for instance, if you actually look at the compensated break, which this one doesn't even, I don't think that it even has a compensated break. The compensated break, which I don't have yet unlocked on this, but I do have it on a few LMGs. And actually, I just got it unlocked on this. I need to test this. This actually improves not only the recoil buildup, but it improves the recoil recovery. And I think this is actually a case also for the double port break on top of the single port break. I think these actually have an improved recoil recovery as well. It just doesn't say so. And those extra points are also important for the suppressor. So if you actually read these descriptions, these do actually affect you. There's side-by-side videos that people have done already that show these. That, for instance, the difference between the long suppressor and the support in the lightened suppressors, the long suppressor actually increases weapon sway, while the lightened suppressor only reduces the cost of hip fire. So both of them actually reduce recoil farther, which kind of makes them almost kind of like one of these breaks or something like that. But they also have additional hidden effects that may not show up in the stat screen in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is the case with a lot of attachments that people might read up on. So like for instance, like some of these, like the hand stop actually increases move speed, even though it doesn't say that in the data right here. And it does so for, it doesn't increase move speed while aim down sight, which is really helpful. So another one that is helpful is looking at the stubbies and stuff. The stubbies increase your aim down sight time, which is really helpful if you're running an aim down sight build. But I think with SMGs, the funnest thing to do is to just run max hip fire if possible. So, but like if I run the compensated break on this and stuff, it's just we're just mowing people down with hip fire at range. And when you run this gun and everything, you can run this with a 41 mag. So this ends up becoming the happy median between the duelist weapons here and then the weapon that can take out an entire squadron. Because this isn't Call of Duty where you're holding 2 corners and going into a whole bunch of duels. Very frequently, you are going to flank a team. And the reason this happens is because they're squad spawning. So if you find a single person, it might be that as soon as you flank that person, their entire wiped team spawns on them, and now there's 4 people there. And on top of that, those individuals, as they go down, they might revive each other. I've had this happen so much that I've gotten a 9 kill streak because you had the entire team spawn on each other and then res each other. So it's like you get 9 kills and you need that much ammo to kill all those people before you run out of ammo. If you run out of ammo, you're dead. And that can change an entire match. If you have the magazine capacity to take out those amount of people, the amount of you multiply your damage by your magazine size, that is something that can change an entire match. You killing one person in a duel and then they instantly getting rezzed by their allies, but you get like a 2.0 KD, you might not change an entire match. You get a 1.0 KD, but one time during that match, you wipe every single person on an objective, that wins a match. And this is something that I think the SGX has a happy in-between of, because you think about the most like meta weapon that for all the meta slaves that everyone talks about is the M4A1. It has a 25 damage by 900 rate of fire. Both these weapons have a lot of damage drop off past about the 10 to 20 meter radius range. But the thing is the SMG, you drop down to 830, but what you gain is a ton of precision, control, and mobility, aim down sight time, and you gain the ability to also have the ability to sprint while firing, and also the engineer's additional hip fire capabilities. And if you play this with Assault, there actually is a cool thing that you can do, which is to use the Adrenaline Stim. And if you use the Adrenaline Stim that the Assault has, this one over here, the Adrenaline Stim actually makes you sprint faster. Misconception is oftentimes that you can pull out your knife and use the Adrenaline Stim, and then you go like double speed. But what the Adrenaline Stim does is it just makes you sprint as fast as if you had a knife out. So if you have insane hip fire and you have an Adrenaline Stim and you're sprinting as fast as if you had a knife out, and you can fire the SMG while sprinting that fast, you become a just absolute like scary opponent for a group to have to fight if you go in there. So what ends up happening is you're able to go on and take 1v6s and snag 1 kill and trade evenly. But if they're losing to you in a 1v6, that's going to be the thing that starts creating cracks in their defenses for you to make wins and stuff on breakthroughs and everything. So looking at the weapons, SGX, I think, is a really great weapon to start out on. If you're looking for a weapon that has a balance between being able to wipe an entire team that is able to duel people, but it has one downside. And the downside isn't readily apparent because this weapon actually has really high precision and really high control. The minimum precision you need to basically fight at all ranges, I think, is around 30. If you're around 30, you're pretty comfortable. If you go under 30, you're going to get really high bloom, which the bloom is when you aim down sight and then the bullets start shooting away from your crosshair or away from wherever you're aiming down sight. If you have around 30, by the time it starts blooming, the target should be dead if it landed all your shots. But if you have under 30, you're likely going to have to tap fire before the target dies. And you can always tap fire if you miss a couple shots. Control is just kind of quality of life, is its recoil control, and this has really high control. It has crazy high mobility. It has the highest hip fire I think you can get for any of the SMGs. So why would you run this weapon over some of the other ones? What's the downside of this weapon? Like, I'd run it over the SL9 because the SL9 has higher precision control, but its TTK is way worse. It has lower rate of fire. I'll run it over the KV9 in the SCW10 because I can actually wipe multiple squads with this without reloading. I can't do that with this. I can maybe get a double, maybe a triple kill, but it's difficult to get more than that. BW7 is good, but it doesn't have the 0 to 10 meter TTK. It doesn't have it. It's very popular. I think it's a really great gun, but it misses out on that TTK in close quarters duels. UMG is just poor, same thing, as an okay range TTK. In the USG also, it just, again, struggles versus other weapons, even like the M4A1. I want to be able to beat the M4A1, and what you can do is you can beat the M4A1 with your extended mag that you can get on this, because the M4A1, you look at its mag capacity, it can get a 40 mag as well, but it costs 25, but the person then is going to add in a whole bunch of other attachments onto their gun, and they're also not going to have the additional hip fire capability that the SMG has. So really, this is probably the weapon. This is basically the M4A1, but it's the M4A1 with a little bit of extra, maybe like mobility stats and in SMG form. So why would you, like, what's the downside of this weapon? And it actually has one very obvious downside, and that obvious downside is its muzzle velocity. It's 321 meters per second. What this means is that the bullet travel time, if I was to fire this at a target that was 321 meters away, it would take a full second. Now, if I fire it at someone who's like 150 meters away, it takes a half second. Versus if I go over to this over here, this will hit them in about a quarter of a second. And this is very noticeable when you start firing at people at far ranges, because you eventually will start getting bullet drop. And like, if I press this, you can actually, you can feel the bullet not hit the target till like it's a quarter second later. Versus if I do that with something like the M4A1 here, it's much more immediate, the snappiness of the firing and everything. So Carbine's really good. Carbine's a little bit too mainstream for me, to be honest and stuff. It's like, it's in every game. It's a little boring. The SGX, it gives some cool pizzazz, because like you can go get this this hand stop. You can sprint while firing and stuff. You can do some you can do some Titanfall 2 running guns, and it's a ton of fun. So that's some tips and stuff that I've had so far, at least for my first-hand experience, because I usually like to play very aggressively. I don't like to play a camping playstyle. Now, if you do want to play a camping playstyle, a couple of things to keep in mind is snipers and DMRs. You might ask yourself, why would you ever run a DMR over a sniper? Because the sniper has a special perk that if you're far enough away from a target, which it won't show a case in here, like let's say you're between 60 and 75 meters and you shoot someone, it'll actually one-shot them in game if they're far enough away from you. The DMR doesn't do that. So why would you run the DMR? Well, if you run a weapon like the SVK and you get the right ammo type for it, you can extend its range at which it one-tap headshots people. But you have to get the headshots, or it's two-shot body shot. But the additional thing has to do with the glare. So the sniper is interesting because if you go through the sniper, you can get an optic accessory that is an anti-glare coating, but you don't get it till like the very end of the game, basically. It's a level 36. And this will reduce the glint that targets see when they look at you. But if you run the DMR, the interesting thing is you can run the DMR with a 10x scope. That also has a variable scope, by the way. You can actually give your 10x scope a variable where it goes between like 1 and 6. There's a 10 and 3 1 in one of these weapons. Like this one's a 2 and 8. And these weapons on the DMRs do not have glare, and you still have very high muzzle velocity, meaning that you can actually counter snipe. The DMR ends up becoming a great counter sniper because you can look for the glint, and the glint may not see you, but you look for the glint. The sniper will all of a sudden not realize that they're being counter sniped, and then the DMR actually becomes an amazing counter sniper to fight people. So one of the things I do with one of my friends is he runs the DMR, and then at times when I'm not running my SMG and just trying to pump my number of kills and deaths at the same time to just try to make an impact in the game, is I'll run something like the LMG. And with LMG, I'll usually end up running it with with something that increases its hip fire even more. So, and a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize is actually the grip pod and the bipod increase your hip fire with the LMGs, which is pretty important. You actually get on the M4A1, which is really cool. And then I'll just mount up here, and I'll just start firing across the entire map, getting suppression kills with my 200 magazine. Now, what this does is this makes me a really prime target to go ahead and get sniped by enemy snipers. But since we're playing as a duo, if I get sniped and they don't headshot me and have the perk, I can just immediately get rezzed. But before he rezzes me, he can also just go here and then counter snipe the enemies that just shot me. So all of a sudden, I'm taking out all the chaff and stuff that might flank us or push on our position aggressively, and then he's taking out all the really long-range people on the other opponent team, and you become able to create a really, really strong defensive line when you run those in combination with one another. So that's some tips. Another one that's pretty interesting is the power of the M44. The M44 actually can one-shot headshot if you're at a close enough range. You can't get quite close enough here, but if you get closer than 10 meters, this thing actually one-shot headshots for a sidearm. So I would say this is probably the most powerful of all the sidearms. If you level it up high enough, you can even get like a 5x scope and make this basically a pocket sniper for you later in the game. Also, if you extended the hipfire on this, that'd also be fairly good, because at any other range, it's 2-shot body shot, or if you get a headshot, I guess it's still 2-shot, but at close range, you can just take people down. Going on to shotguns, shotguns are probably they're just the strongest when it comes to CQC. They are better at holding corners. They aren't better at running, gunning down corners. And the reason that is unless you kill them on the first shot as you go around a corner, these guns have a lot more bloom. But the cool thing is with these guns, unlike SMGs, you can actually put slugs in them that allow you to 2-shot things at range. In up close, you can do a little bit more damage to even potentially one-shot them. So if this gun actually, even though it's body shot there, if you actually go at range here, it actually, you'll see it has 100 damage. So if you're below 10 meters, you can actually one-shot people with these slugs. So the most powerful of all of these shotguns, I would definitely say, is the M1014, because it has a 200 rate of fire, and below 10 meters, every single shot in this magazine can kill someone. The M871 is interesting because it can one-shot at up to 10 meters, so you don't have to be as close. It can sometimes one-shot at even 15 to 20 meters, I think, if you get really lucky. But the problem is if you do have multiple targets in this 10-meter range, you only have a rate of fire of 94, right? So your time to kill is going to be a lot weaker. So if you're going to do one of these weapons, do one of these two. If you just want to see this, I can show you the 18.5 KS. It's an interesting weapon, but the reality is this has over like a 200 to 400 millisecond TTK, which is really, 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 really bad. TTK is calculated by the time you hit your first bullet, but a better TTK, I would say, is a retaliatory TTK, which is your time to kill after the opponent has landed their first bullet on you. And when you use this rate of fire and everything, only being able to fire one shot like every 200 millisecond and not being able to one-shot them at all, basically this has a worse TTK than any SMG in the entire game, which is really rough. And on top of that, it doesn't have a higher mag size. The one thing that's kind of fun on it is if you run slugs, on it, you can get 2-shot kills at around medium range. So let me just go ahead and try to get some of these things reduced and show the slugs off here. So this 3 shots at this range rather than the M1014, you actually know it's 2-shot this range, but here you can 2-shot people at medium close range. So if you want a DMR that can 2-shot at closer ranges that actually has a slightly faster rate of fire than some of the DMRs, you can run the KSK. What is the KSK actually good for? It's actually probably good for what it says in lore, which I think it's like a Russian shotgun that shoots down drones. If you ran this as an assault class with the flechette rounds or the buckshot and used it literally just to shoot down recon drones, this would be really good. And you might be like, why would I be spending my time doing that? It's because the recon drones are actually one of the fastest way to farm score in the entire game at the moment. The recon drones, they were bugged during the first week, but if you play on Maroc Valley and you want a power level, run recon drone, and I've had multiple games where you can top frag on score just by spotting the entire enemy team over and over again. And then the other tip is you want to do this before other recon drones get to you, is if you actually left click while you're using them, you can actually get rid of gadgets and blow them up with electronic warfare. So if you don't want your spotted and being tracked by the entire enemy team and your rest of your team being spotted the entire time, actually a really good counter tool that a lot of people may not consider is actually running the assault and swapping to the high rate of fire KSK shotgun, which is the one thing it's actually really good at doing. Like, for example, if I run this and I grab the shotgun, run the KSK, run it with the buckshot, you can just go here and you can just fire down the range, and hopefully, I think that has slugs on it. Maybe. Here we go. This is probably a little better. You can just go down range and you can just fire in the general vicinity and you'll do some damage. And you just need a little bit of damage to take out the drones. And that's all in hip fire. And this is one of the things that made me really want to do the SMG, is being able to just spray and pray down the range like this and aim in the general vicinity to do damage. It's a lot of fun. If you're wanting to do LMGs, the most powerful LMGs in the game for close quarters are 2 of them. It's the M240L and the M123K. The M123K, you'll notice, actually just has the exact same DPS output as the SGX. The only difference is it has less precision, less mobility. It's just a lot less other stats. And like any LMG, has a really long aim down sight time. The M240L, on the other hand, is 3-shot kill, so it's kind of like the akin to the SCW-10. There's also an assault rifle that's kind of like that, which is the TR7, and they're all 3-shot kills. So the M240, it combined with its rate of fire and stuff, it's a great TTK. It's like the better dueling version of the M60, which has a significantly lower rate of fire. It's like a 20% lower. The M60 has a lower rate of TTK than a lot of these weapons. The M240, it's just high enough that it actually has a faster TTK than a lot of these weapons. It's also cool. It's actually like purely belt fed, and you feed it with pure belts. This is a difficult challenge though, because you have to unlock the KTS first, which is there's a version of this gun in everyone. It's kind of like a pea shooter that has really low recoil, and there's one of them in every class. The assaults, it's the cord. For the carbine, it's the AK-205. For the SMGs, it's the SL9. For the LMGs, it's the KTS MK8. So it's like a lot of people will complain about the different weapons being overtuned, but a lot of times I think it's just because they're not quite finding the weapon that is the archetype of its type in every single one of the categories. And in this case, the KTS, it's that pea shooter that matches all those other ones. But the nice thing is, if you're playing one of the classes and you really main support, let's say you really main assault, you really main engineer, you can actually just kind of pick with that class. That way you get the benefit of that class's passive, and then you choose the sort of weapon that's akin to the others and everything. So like if you end up running the assault rifle and you just want to run the M4A1, SGX is basically the M4A1 with a whole bunch of other benefits, but really way worse way worse muzzle velocity. So big thing that it comes down to a lot of times though is it comes down to attachments. And some weapons need more attachments, some need less. SGX needs a ton of attachments. M4A1 needs a ton of attachments. But if you go through and you just use like the PW782, you might be like, oh, why the heck is everyone using the M4A1 when the PW782? It feels like a beam right out of the get-go, and it feels really strong, and then all of a sudden feels like SMGs are OP. So there is the thing that a lot of people complain about, which has to do with bloom. If you look at my crosshair, whenever you move, the bloom goes out a little bit. One thing to keep in mind is that once you start firing, your bloom doesn't reset once you stop firing. So if you start firing here, the bloom starts going out. But if you start moving and you start firing and then you stop moving, you don't benefit from stopping your moving once you've already started firing. So a lot of times this also goes into sliding. So a lot of people don't know is that when you actually slide, it increases your bloom. It doesn't always show it apparently. It does actually show it fairly apparently when I run the SGX. I have really high hip fire here, but when I run the SGX, you'll notice I get a little tiny boost in my bloom that you can see because I have the hand stop equipped. And if I start firing during that time, my bloom will stay at that higher capacity. So if you really want to benefit from not experiencing the bloom, you need to come to a complete stop first and then start firing. But because if you start firing while you're moving, like when you're jumping, the bloom doesn't reset once you stop jumping. So hopefully that's a helpful tip when it comes to those weapons. If I was going to go through the categories and like kind of rank some of my favorite weapons, the assault rifle, the TR7 is really, really stylish. I've seen other people have really good experiences with the cord and some of the other ones. I think particularly the M433 is a little bit underrated. If you go through a couple of the others, the carbines, the M4A1 is really good. The M277, I think this is a little bit slept on. This is like a 4-shot kill at all ranges, so there's a very high level of consistency if you use this weapon. You want to the other SMG, I would use the SGX if you want to do really do like make impactful moments during the game. If you want to duel, use the SCW-10 or the KV-9. If you don't want to grind up the SGX and you will kind of want that ability to like kind of get those carrying moments where you wipe out an entire squad, but you don't want to grind up all the attachments, use this the P90. The P90 it unlocks its attachments that are like helpful for it really, really quickly, and it already comes with the 50 mag pre-equipped. And it's not actually like when I run this, like I can't even put on enough weapons. If you look in the top left, to cap out on its capacity for its attachments, which is nuts. I still have 35 attachment slots left on it. The reason I've given up on it a little bit, I still use it every now and then, is the problem is I can't decrease the TTK on this. I can't make it kill people faster no matter how many attachments I put on it at close range. But that makes it really, really, really good out of the gate. LMG, L110 is amazing if you start with it. It has that 32 precision, that 30 precision I was talking about. That's really good for long range. M123K, you have to tap fire it at range if you don't have it mounted, but its TTK is amazing, and I feel like it's probably the best hip fire gun out of all of them. The DRS, IAR, and the RPKM. RPKM actually has really high precision and a lower control stat, and there's only a few of these weapons in the game that have higher precision in lower control. You can get the precision if you put a converter on it to actually be higher than the control stat. For those people who want to play CSGO and know exactly where the recoil is going to go. But it has a very high damage drop-off uniquely for this weapon after its first 10 meters. DRS, you can make this gun into anything you want. The only reason I wouldn't do these weapons is the really high ADS time. You might as well run an assault or a carbine, but if you run the support, you do lower your ADS a little bit. It's not completely, but it does improve it a little bit. So if you really want to play a weapon that is kind of unique and you play a ton of support class, those are good ones to look at. If you just want fastest TTK though, I would do M123K or M240L because at the end of the day, you can always make attachments and you can improve your aim and everything to account for that stuff. At range, eventually you have to account for bloom, which you can't fully control. But once you have like 30 precision or close to it, or you're tap firing enough, TTK is ultimately, I think, usually the limiting factor for what's meta and what's not meta. The DMRs is the SVK. Snipers I haven't played enough around with, but what I know is that I think they have different sweet spot zones, so it just depends on which range you want to snipe. And for the shotgun, you don't unlock the M1014 until way later in the game, but I would run the M1014 once you get it unlocked. It's just the king of CQC. You can wipe entire squads with it. Literally every single one of these shots at 200 rate of fire is a full kill when you're in CQC. So if you're playing an assault and you have a secondary weapon, I would run this. If you're running just a single shotgun and you need it for all ranges, that's when I would probably start moving to the M-Maze Evan. If you're running like with a support, you're running with a recon, I would then start looking at the M7A1. If you're running slugs though, slugs I would go ahead and go with the M1014 because you can just two-shot at medium range, and at farther ranges, both these are not going to one-shot. They're going to 2 to 3 shot, and if you're 2 to 3 shotting, you might as well go with the higher rate of fire. So those are my thoughts. If there's new things and stuff I find out, such as like instance, like how good are all these different subclasses and stuff. I'll try to let you know in the future and stuff, but that's it for now. The Anvil Paladin, I don't know who made Chris Robert Santa, but the Anvil Paladin is in the PTU. This ship is nuts. I've been waiting for this ship for a long time. I'll go through just some quick thoughts, first impressions and everything of this. I've only gotten into free flight with this once before, and everything else has just been me looking at SP Viewer, Urkel, and secondhand gameplay. Star Citizen did not want to update my PTU account. Finally updated. So, quick things about this that I thought were really interesting. Let's start with the loadout, the boring stuff. Skip ahead if you don't care about that. So, the shield generator. This is a size 3 shield generator, and this is huge for the current meta the way the game is right now. The reason this is huge is the size 3 shield generator actually has shield faces. It's not just one giant shield. It means that if you shoot someone's right shield enough, eventually they can shoot your whole while your front, back, and left shield are also still up. The reason that's a big deal is that means that those shield faces can independently regenerate as well. Another thing is looking forward is the size 3 shield generator. You can't take it out and put it back in and stuff. Supposedly you can only do that with size 2 shield generators. So if it breaks, you're out of luck. But it does seem to be a lot more powerful, which, at least in the current game state, I don't know if it'll stay that way, is a huge boon. So for this ship, I would probably suggest running the, I'll double check this once I get in game, but I would suggest running the industrial grade A. You always want to run the highest grade you can, and the two in meta right now are the industrial and the military. Why would you choose industrial, and why would you choose military? You choose industrial if you want more shield HP. You choose military if you want one of two things. You want faster time till your shields start to regen, or two, you're constrained on power. Because the industrial requires a lot of power to put into it to make it minimally work. The military does not. This ship, I think that we have enough power for. Why do I think that we have enough power for this? Because we have 3 power plants. This is nuts. So what are we going to do with these? We're going to go through and figure out where the... I thought it was the JS400. Yeah, there we go. The JS400, which is military grade A. It just gives you the most power pips. Not more complicated than that. It used to be competition was really good, but past those days. Coolers, right now in the current game, this is going to change in the future, but the way the game is structured right now, you only need to have 1 pip in any cooler. So basically, you don't want to run competition or industrial. Or civilian. Basically, if you run stealth or military, you can make the cooler barely work by just putting 1 pip in it, and that's good enough. I just unequipped this for quality of life. If you have a cool livery, put that on. Very important. But if you're like me and you just got this stock green thing that looks like it's pulled straight out of Halo, you'll go on the weapons. And amazing thing about this is it already has CF repeaters on everything. It has rhinos, and Galderines. And one thing I anticipate that might be an issue with this ship is that the repeaters will have too much power draw. So you'll only have maybe 20 bullets for each of these guns when they should have a really high maximum capacity of 75 or so. The missiles on this, I was looking at, and at first I was disappointed because it's how many missiles do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's someone usually has 30 to 60 flares or something like that. The Cutlass you can put 32 missiles on. And then I forgot and I remembered that you can actually just put giant missile racks on this. So let's say you pull this out here and you have this 481 missile rack. When you equip this, all of a sudden, you're going to have 8 missiles here, which is pretty huge. I'm not going to make that change just because sometimes that bugs things out, but you should easily be able to do that in the PTU. But that means we should have at least 8 missiles, 16 missiles, another 8 missiles there, so 24, 32, 40, and 48. So 48 missiles, which is actually more than the standard sort of like Cutlass Corsair of like 32 size 3s. And you might be like, Alkaline, why do you care so much about missile count? Why don't you just want that one giant big missile? And for me, the reason is it comes down to it being a useful anti-nav mode deterrent. And a lot of times it doesn't matter when you get a missile launched at you, you don't know what size of missile is coming at you. You just know that a missile is coming at you. So we're using these missiles to try to prevent people from running away in nav mode, because this isn't a QED ship. It's just this large fat thing that has a ton of damage and a ton of HP. People can probably get away from it, so we just want to make sure they don't want to try to get away from it. So, but it is interesting. It has those really large torpedoes, so as they buff missiles and stuff over time, that might become a game changer. So let's go ahead and get into the game here. Had an issue there, but let's figure out this ship and everything on power management. So I thought that industrial parapet grade A would be good, and it looks like we are good there. Doesn't look like my power change save there, unfortunately, but we can just take those off, put powers to all these, and interestingly enough, we still have can't put that pip to power in that very top one for some reason, so that's probably a bug. But it looks like I have enough power for everything, including 9 additional output, which is actually interesting, because that means that if I were to go to nav mode here, I can probably actually maximally power everything in here as well. And that's kind of big, because that means that your afterburners are going to be recharging faster when you're in nav mode, and when you come out of nav mode, your weapons will be fresh and already at 72 capacitor. So it might be that I'm able to have 75 capacitor on all these guns, but I can't get that last pip selected for whatever reason. But 72 out of 75 is really good. That's like less than 5% drop in firepower. So let's check out the gimbals here. So gimbals here are exactly like the Starfare, it looks like. So if you go to my previous like Starfare videos and stuff, one thing you'll notice is a lot of times I'll actually swap these to be two different weapon groups. So I don't have my settings tuned right perfectly for that, but I can kind of try to show you a little bit of what I mean here. So if we took 2 of these, let's say this weapon group here, what I might end up doing is assigning my right click to right weapon group, and then my left mouse click would be just my left turret. So imagine the right turret's not shooting here. And what I would do at this point is, if the target's on the right side of my screen, I'm just shooting this one while the other one recharges. Let's say I run out of ammo here, which takes a while because this thing has a lot of capacitor. I would then roll, flip, and then continue shooting with my left turret over here on the side. So for the gimbals on this thing, I assume that these are just going to be 25-25 gimbals, and it looks like they are, with the convergence kind of in the center here. I have read that there's a bug that when it targets right in front of you, that you can't shoot right in front of you at like 75 meters. I think that's an issue that's with some of the turreted ships. I think I remember experiencing that on the Reclaimer, and I can understand why that might be the case, but it is a little bit annoying. So these should just be able to pitch down just a little bit. What I have heard though, as a fix, is that if you go out of gimbal mode and you go into fixed, your weapon convergence is supposedly fixes itself. Whenever you target an enemy at that point, your gimbals will sort of do the auto convergence and aim down into each other. So the other thing about this ship that is really interesting is that this ship, like the Asgard, it's kind of like a sibling, has VTOL thrusters. So when I press the VTOL button, you'll actually see, maybe, they're somewhere. Where are they at? Let's double check. So my VTOL is activating here. No, they function. Did I gaslit myself? Let's activate landing gear on and off. Huh. Oh wait, maybe. Over here, maybe. Okay, interesting. So this ship may actually not have VTOL thrusters. I thought it did. I guess that makes sense because the turret mounts where they were located before are removed for the turret mounts. So let's see if the VTOLs are actually functional though. Sorry about that. I was certain that they did have those. So if we have 2.5 Gs upstrafe, VTOL activated, 2.5 upstrafe without VTOL. So it looks like these are the same 3.2. Then let's turn on VTOL and boost upstrafe the other way. And still 3.2. So this ship, unfortunately, seems like it doesn't have VTOL, kind of like the MSR doesn't have VTOL. So it won't be able to do things that like the Corsair and the A2 can, where it focuses on pitching down into the target and moving that way. I will say, though, there's still a huge benefit, because if you look at my G meter here, I'm going to downstrafe downwards, and you see the space dust going up. I have 2 Gs that way. If I go the other direction, that's 2.5 Gs if I go upwards and upstrafe. So your benefit is with this ship is going to be upstrafe and also right and left strafe, right? That's 3.3 if I go left, and I get 3.2 if I go up. So the key on this ship is going to be rotating between those 3 axes. And the reason that's a big deal for this ship is that this ship, unlike some of its sort of similar counterparts, like let's say the Corsair, they don't have a great turret that has access to shooting underneath it. So consider like a Cutlass, for instance. A Cutlass has VTOL engines that allow it to really heavily upstrafe. So imagine that moon is the enemy target, right? If the moon is the enemy target over there, then what would happen when we upstrafe is it would go underneath me. And if it's underneath me, I can't shoot down there, right? They get underneath the ship, I can't fire. This ship, though, you can press S, and it will change the position of this remote turret, which has the same amount of firepower as an entire constellation. So this is an entire constellation on a turret that has 360-degree rotation with auto gimbal for auto aiming on enemy targets, which is pretty nuts. It does look like there's some sort of bug where one of those turrets isn't shooting, that bottom right one though, so hopefully those get sorted out on release. So what makes this ship interesting, I guess in that case, is that combined between those two, it has more firepower than a Corsair, but if you had 2 Corsairs would have more firepower than this ship. So why am I so excited about this ship? When I look at multi-crew and stuff, I always ask myself, I'm a little bit of a pragmatist, or I'm like, I don't really want to just LARP a multi-crew ship. If I run a multi-crew ship, I kind of want there to be some better trade-off value of running the multi-crew rather than running like 2 individual ships. Whether that's putting a ship inside the ship and having that person be a snub fighter, or something else of the sorts. But even then, I want there to be more value. Like, why not just run 2 Corsairs with 2 Furies in the back rather than 1 Corsair with 1 Fury in the back? This ship, other than resources and stuff, but when you play this game a ton, eventually you get those resources, especially with organizations and everything. So just looking at purely from a effectiveness meta, rather than solely a logistical one. So for this ship, the interesting thing is that this can likely beat multiple Corsairs. I don't know how many, but in previous metas where the Corsair was super OP and needed nerfed, and everyone was running in squadron battle, a good counter meta I found was the Starfarer Gemini. Starfarer Gemini was interesting because it has 3 times the shields of a Corsair and tons of hull HP. But the reason it worked is it had a dual size 5 turret on the top with 4 size 4s on the front. Basically the exact same weaponry as this kit. It's just even slower than this is, and even worse pitch. And the reason it works is I engage the Corsair. Let's say the station is the Corsair. I'm firing, and my front shields, look in the top right here, or top left here, my front shields, they're going down, and all of a sudden my front and my right shield are weak. So what do? I don't just keep firing right here. What I do is I rotate my ship, and I keep the enemy on the side while I side strafe away from the station, while my turret shoots at him, and I can kind of rotate this way to make sure that they shoot at him while that shield's getting hit. And after about 5 seconds, which I may actually run military on this now that I think about it, that way I have a faster time to have my shield faces start regenning instead of the industrial shield generator. eventually my shields will start to regen. You'll see them in the top left. I'm just pressing the shift power face to visualize it. And then I can start shifting, turning away. And then let's say my rear shield's getting weak now. My rear shield's getting weak. Now, eventually, once my front shield's really strong again, now I point towards them and I start engaging them again. And so you're kind of playing it almost like this, like way that you might play like Sea of Thieves or something, where you're kind of like rotating your ship to like broadside and everything, except there's not only broadside to this ship, like you can also go up, you can go down, and then say, hey, turret gunner, go to the top of it. You can say go under, and then they go underneath. And the other reason this is really interesting is size 5s became a little bit rarer with the Corsair being sort of nerfed. The Corsair now has 2 size 5s and 4 size 4s, and those size 5s don't just make up for a DPS difference. The current DPS sort of conversion rate is about 1.5. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you have a Gladius, which is like the stock Squadron 42 staple ship. It has 3 size 3s, and let's say it has 750 DPS. You can also get 750 DPS with 2 of the same brand, the Rhino repeaters of size 4s. So there's about a 1.5 multiplier. You go from 3, you go to 2. So multiply 2 by 1.5, you get 3. So with this ship, you do get a lot more DPS with those 4 size 5s on top, but the bigger thing you also get is increased maximum range. And this is one thing that they've talked about a lot with Star Citizen that I didn't really quite understand until I fought a Constellation over and over again in a Mercury Star Runner. In the Mercury Star Runner, we were having actually a little bit of difficulties because it's a really large target, right? And we were having difficulties at really far ranges. And I thought we shouldn't have those difficulties because we have so much speed. We can just try to evade the bullets and then return an equal amount of fire. But what we found is at the ranges where we had great evasion, eventually we couldn't shoot our own bullets back at them at that 2 to 3 kilometer, just with the difference. If you added in the amount of change in where the position was of where the opponent was, a lot of times their bullets wouldn't actually be hitting the target by the time they actually got there. Even though they were in the optimal range when we fired them. So this ship has 4 size 5s, so what that means is I can go lay siege to, let's say, a Constellation that also has 4 size 5s and would be a dangerous target at, like, let's say 3 kilometers, and while the Constellation is laying into the ship, let's say 2 Constellations are laying into the ship, laying 8 size 5s into it, I can just start rotating the ship as the shields go down, and that 4 size 5s on the top can just shoot at them the entire time. And this isn't to mention that this 4 size 5s will likely get a turret capacitor buff, which is pretty common nowadays with a lot of these things. So it looks like we have an enemy Paladin over here, and he is looking to lair me. So that's, oh, okay. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to, oh crap, I took damage from the torps. So how might I lose this one? So it'd be kind of cool though, so it'd be, we'll see more Paladin pilots. So you can actually see my front shield's already down here, and you see that turret convergence you gotta be really careful with. So here my front shield is down, so and that's gonna be the side I'm gonna be fighting with. So this is a great way to show, like, hey, what happens when you're in a crazy disadvantage. So I need to swap shield faces, and you look in the top left, I'm swapping shields to the front face to at least improve my possible odds at survival. Don't really need this VTOL. I'm putting way too much into whatchamacallit, into boost. I can see this weapon converge issue. Let's see if we swap to fix, if it fixes itself. So fix does fix itself. You can see that. We're still losing those front shields, so we need to run away again here. If we have any hopes. Get those front shields up. Get those front shields up. Don't know if it's ethical for me to use chaff since he just fired 4 missiles at me. It probably is, but I don't know. I guess a good stress test if I didn't have chaff. So we're gonna try to do this in fixed. So we'll see if we can get in close to knife item so I can start to then. There we go. He got me. Oh, check it out. So this Paladin is really good. Oh, and he had a turret on top with 4 size 5s. So yeah, so that 4 size 5 turret, it makes a huge difference. So it doesn't matter how much time you put into fighters and stuff. If even if you're playing the Paladin, a 2-man Paladin, it will rinse you when it has that additional 4 size 5s. So This week, I saw an advertisement for Arby steak nuggets. I recently tried the Arby's Philly cheesesteak sandwich, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever consumed from a fast food restaurant. That wasn't something that was like undercooked or overcooked. It was prepared as intended by the chefs of that kitchen, but oh man, it was terrible. But Arby's steak nuggets, by themselves, they are a solid 6 out of 10. So why am I talking about them? It is because I think that they can become an absolute 10 out of 10 if you just frame them right. When I went there and I got this, it's like I got 5 nuggets for $5. That's insane. I remember when I was in college and a whole bunch of people went and like they spent like $100 on like chicken nuggets, and they got like 1,000 chicken nuggets or something like that. This is like steak. This is when I went there and I ate this, like this isn't like crazy unhealthy. It's just a piece of cubed meat. It was well cooked. It wasn't like undercooked. There wasn't really any fat on it. The texture was superb. The texture was a 9 out of 10. It was like if you took the mix of pot roast in a burnt end. And it's like I can go there and get a mix between a burnt end and a pot roast. So like, why is it a 6 out of 10? It's because it's like a 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10 flavor for me paying for food. Like if I'm going out and I'm paying for food, I'm not making myself and stuff. It should taste really good. And the flavor tastes like a very subtle hint of like off-brand beef jerky from like Great Value Walmart or something like that. It doesn't inspire and spark joy. But the thing is, there's not that much flavor to it in the stuff, and there's not a ton of sodium in there that I know of, and the flavor's not really there, but the texture's totally there. Meaning that you could like go to work, and you could like ship to your office, to your mini fridge, like the best barbecue sauce from like Kansas City or something, which is home of the best barbecue sauce. If you even look at Sweet Baby Ray's and that there's her sauce, like nothing. Get Kansas City barbecue sauce. Just choose a random barbecue restaurant that is listed in like the top 500 food and wine from the United States of America's like magazine. Pick one that is from Kansas City. Get their barbecue sauce. Order it. Put it in your refrigerator, your mini fridge. And then serve that with this. And then you have quasi burnt ends for $5 for lunch. That's insane. Burnt ends are usually like 15 to 20 bucks. So if I can get those for $5 and I could eat that like every single day, not that you need to eat burnt ends every day, but the fact that you could, and I can get that from a fast food restaurant, like imagine if I could get burnt ends from McDonald's, but like it's not the McRib. Like that almost makes me want to hurl. It wouldn't be good. But like this that I got here for like this is better. This would probably be better than a fair number of barbecue restaurants. You just need to use a barbecue sauce that's like Sauce is King, not some sort of like Texas faux barbecue where it's like they're just literally grilling. And it's not. It's like sure it's barbecue, but it's like where's the sauce? Oh no, I feel like Texas barbecue is like gentrification incarnate. So it's good, but I don't know. I like the idea of like taking rats on sticks and then dipping them in barbecue sauce and then making them better. It seems very like equitable. So anyway, go to Arby's, try out their steak nuggets, but if you don't like them, don't blame it on the nuggets. Blame it on your inability to obtain great barbecue sauce. And as you do so, go and order good barbecue sauce from USA Food and Wine from a random barbecue restaurant in the Midwest. As some wacky gimbals. When I saw the CitizenCon update and that this thing had 4 size 3s, 2 size 2s, and a size 5, I assumed that this ship would have a size 5 cannon that was fixed in the center and couldn't be really aimed, kind of like the old Glaive and everything, but this was quite a surprise. I was only looking at the ship on SP Viewer and Urkel, but once I actually looked at this in-game and started tuning in the gimbals, I found out that this is a pretty different ship from say like the F8C. So if you're going to run like the F8C, your maximum range on your gimbal V-joys is going to be like maybe like a 12 or a 15, meaning that this is the box you're able to aim in, right? And this box is basically like this speedometer to this after-booster box, just like this rectangle. And that's a little bit limited. That's pretty low, and for the second part, the F8C only shoots really below the dashboard. It can kind of shoot up with its top turret, but it's really going to struggle to hit targets above the dashboard for significant damage. So if you're running the Guardian MX, the Guardian MX is great because all the weapons have convergence, and there's not really any jinkiness to it. It just looks like how it's supposed to, kind of like in the Andor TV show and stuff, and you just shoot in this square right here, which is really good. This ship, though, I was not expecting this. You can kind of get up to a 20 maximum VJoy. Now, who knows if this is what you'd actually want to run, but the reason this is important to know, at least for duels, is this is the maximum range that you can ping somebody who's on the sides. And when you're fighting against light fighters, you don't need always a lot of damage. Sometimes you just need that one extra shot in to get a kill on them before they get stuck behind you, or you can't hit them ever again. And the way I found out to figure out, like, hey, where's my maximum gimbal VJoy ranges is you'll notice that if I shoot in this corner, none of my guns are converging on my crosshair. If I shoot in this corner, same thing, same thing, same thing. But what's interesting is if you make this sort of this cross in the center, you do it by looking at your bottom MFD, this bottom MFD right here. Look at the radar. Look at the width of the radar. If you look at the width of the radar as a sort of a makeshift sight, you can see I can shoot all the way down there. I can do a little ping. If I do over here, I can do a little ping there. In the center, I can also hit. If I go up to the top, thinking the same width, this width right here, and I shoot all the way up there, I can get one of my guns sitting up there, and I can get one of my guns sitting up there, and there's always at least one gun shooting up there. Now, let's look at this after boost bar in this in my speedometer. If I shoot around this width right here, I can see one of my guns is hitting at my crosshair, and right here, one of my guns is hitting at the crosshair. Same thing over here. So what this means is that this is a ship that actually very much benefit from assigning multiple weapon groups. So if you assign your plasma gun, your very center one, the giant cannon that does almost 1,000 damage a shot, you can focus on conserving your ammo with that and shooting that in center and taking off your other weapon groups, which I haven't done yet, and then use these other ones to try to pressure the opponent out of positions that they think that they could easily get into to cause them to panic. And then your goal is then, most of the rest of the time, is going to be, of course, extending, because this ship is so ridiculously slow. It's so slow that you need to keep them in this bubble where all your pips kind of align with one another so you get maximum DPS. And this is what you'll likely be doing if you're fighting like a constellation and stuff. But if you're able to create distance just enough that the person's not able to get in your slot, but they're right there on the side, you might actually be able to shoot them in that pocket right over there. And I'm not sure if 20 is the best gimbal. Maybe it's like maybe it's add a couple, take a couple down. But the big thing is this is substantially larger as a maximum possible VJoy range compared to the MX and the F8C. So for weapons, I'd suggest for the loadout and everything on this. And let's see if I can even take on who's this guy over here. Can't find my targeting list. Oh, they're also in the singer. So let's see if we can see if this guy wants to fight here. See if we can change our coolers. Oh, oof. I guess there's the cannon, so it's kind of hard to ping people, but. Maybe a second pass. Sounds so cool, and I like the. There we go. We got a fight on. Fortunately, I don't have that second weapon group. But see how I'm using my strafe to push into it, so I push the pips on top of each other. So I'm going to extend here. Now I'm going to down strafe, try to push those pips right in on top of each other, put them together. Up strafe, side strafe. Here I'm going to extend while I recharge. Now you see that pip separation? I don't want to fire while that pip separation is all the way like that, but I am going to corkscrew here to get my little bit of shields back. We do want to ping a little bit there. There we go. Now we're going to wait for extension, put them right on top of each other, and then we take them out like that. Whoa, dude, that had like some sort of liquid explode. That was wild. So this is interesting. I might be changing my tune a little bit on this because that is a significant amount of damage from that top gun that this ship might actually have a huge edge versus potentially some other heavy fighters. I feel like the MX or the lighter Guardians might be able to corkscrew maneuver and basically evade all the shots from this ship and beat it at a range contest, likely focusing on shield regeneration, which brings me down to loadouts. So for this ship, I'm running all CF repeaters, which are the 1800 meter a second projectiles. That would be your Panthers, your Badgers, your Bulldogs, your Rhinos. You just want to make sure you're using whatever the maximum size is for your weapon puck. For the power plants, you're running the JS300s, and then for the shields is a little bit of a complicated thing. If you're running the military power plants and stuff, I believe the military power plants take 3 each to run maximum, so that'd be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you can run that, I would. Sorry, not the military, the industrial. So right now I'm running the military. What is the benefit of the military? The benefit of the military shield generators is that they have a faster time to start regenerating. So if, let's say you're playing Halo and you got meleeed, how long does it take for you to start regenerating just one of your 100 shields? The military is going to start doing that the fastest, which is really, really beneficial if you're struggling at range fights with light fighters and stuff. That's a really great way to go. And the reason I've been running it on a lot of other ships is in the PU, where you just, like, maybe you're playing this patch and you don't really want to grind any components. You can run military components with a minimum of 2 shields, which is important on the Guardian MX because you don't have enough power to run max power to engines and to shields. So for this ship, I would probably advise, honestly, to run industrial shields. Industrial shields have like a good 25 to 30% additional like max HP to shields, and that would add a significant chunk of change to HP on the ship. This ship's HP is good, but it's not exceptional. What I mean by that is it has a really, really high vital HP. It has 12,000 vital HP, which is significantly higher than the MX and the FAC. So you might be like, well, why, Alkaline, are you saying that it has not exceptional HP? And the reason is it doesn't have a whole bunch of extra, like, non-vital HP. You see, the Guardian MX has all those wings on the side, and all those wings soak up a ton of damage, and if you use your strafes right, you can make it really, really difficult to hit the vital location. This ship has a lot less of that extra HP, and that could easily change in just like a patch or two. It could swing wildly depending on how Maelstrom and engineering and all that sort of stuff works. So, since I am going through the ship and stuff, and in case you haven't, you can skip past this if you haven't, but here's a quick pseudo tour. There's people who do way better probably tours than this, but it is interesting. This already actually has the fuse system in it for one of the alien ships, so it has some sort of degree of engineering. Let's open up this here, and this is the ramp. So from my perspective, this is interesting because I'm probably going to try to fit a pulse in here. And why is that such a big deal? Because the pulse just makes FPS bounty hunting so much easier. So there's so many players who are using the armor duplicate thing for a while. I don't think they maybe are as much anymore, but I ran into it so much that it's like the only way I could beat people who were creating like traps and stuff was to get them set to cluster by using a pulse. So you can't blow up the pulses nowadays. Using grenade launcher one-shots them. Really easy counterplay, but a little bit exclusionary. I haven't tried it with the other weapons and stuff, but it's a ton of fun doing your speeder bike fantasies like it's Star Wars. But this is really interesting though, because it is a ramp. You might be able to stuff Atlases up there but that would clearly be unintended. But I do think that you could, especially if you had like 2 people jerry-rigging in here, which you shouldn't do. I'm pretty sure you can figure out how to get a pulse on that ramp and then have it push up here somehow. So. One thing though is this doesn't have a weapon rack in case they ever bring weapon insurance stuff ever back again combined to the ship, but it does not have a bed to my knowledge. So the base Guardian series, if you're looking for PU stuff, I still think the Guardian QI is the most versatile if you're doing just like if you're randomly looking through every single thing inside the PU and you're rolling the dice and you don't know what you're going to get. QI is probably going to be your best bet, but this is a really nice kind of close second now that it has a actual interior for a heavy fighter, which, or at least fighters that can actually kind of, they're a little bit more relevant in the non-multi-crew heavy fighter space. Like there is the Sentinel, the Vanguard Sentinel, which I think can have some real presence because how dirty EMPs are, but you really need a multi-crew, I think, to run that effectively. This provides a really great other single piloted heavy fighter option to the space. Now, where do I think this is going to end up in the meta? I think that this is going to end up providing. Also, that is just such a cool animation. I think it like puts you in there like a. If I'm not wrong, it puts you in there, yeah, like a motorcycle. So, where do I think this is going to end up in the meta? This is going to end up likely in a position where it's in between the Ion and Inferno as one end of the category. Not in between those two, but one end of the category. And then the other end of the categories, you have what they termed combat heavy fighters. If you actually go through the Star Citizen Arena Commander screen, you click on the different ships and everything, the MX and the FAC at some point were actually labeled combat heavy fighters rather than just heavy fighters, which to me sort of showed that they had a little bit of a different flight type where they aren't guaranteed to be able to get out of the pocket when someone has gotten behind them with like a light fighter or so. And that experientially, that's not just a given with those two ships. So I feel like this ship is going to be a little slower than them, a little less agile, but it's going to be able to punch up a little bit higher, kind of like the Inferno and the Ares. So it probably won't be as good in like a dueling 1v1 scenario or maybe a 2v2 scenario as the MX and the FAC are. But I think it will likely perform much better, especially with Maelstrom coming in, where they've talked about size 3s not being able to puncture heavy capital ship hull. The idea was they were saying is that you might be able to do like P-shot damages worth of size 4 damage, right? But you need a size 5 or higher to do actual meaningful capital ship damage. And this right here should do actually meaningful capital ship size damage with a size 5. So I haven't tested it yet, but another interesting thing I think that maybe yet to be seen would be is how this ship performs with carrier gameplay with an Idris. I'll see if it fits in one at some point, but if it does, I think this then fills a really interesting role because it doesn't necessarily have to have that dueling capability. If you have PDCs for support to get someone off your tail, you just kind of run back to your ship and you're tanky enough to likely get there, and then the PDCs shoot that light fighter off you. But it's not completely inept. It can actually support your other fighters that are out in the area by taking them down. It can actually probably shoot down a torpedo or an A1 bomber in atmosphere that's trying to bomb your your capital, because like even the Ares and Inferno, if someone's doing VTOL corkscrews inside of A1, they're going to be a difficult shot to hit. This though, it'll be a little bit more reliable. So I feel like it'll be really interesting if this does fit on carriers, because imagine someone having an Idris stacked with like, I don't know, like 4 blades and 1 or 2 of these things. I know you can fit that many, but that would be really scary to deal with. I would not want to play around with that. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the Stinger. If there's something you want to know about this, feel free to ask me in the comment section below, and I'll either try to respond to all those, or I'll make a follow-up video or something just responding to comments in the future. So that's all. If I was to choose a single word to describe Megabonk, it would be brain rot. Like, this game is an auto shooter where you can play as Mega Chad to farm your aura to a level that you can beat Darth Vader. That's probably the most brain rot sentence I've ever said in my entire life, and you can do that in this game. So anyways, I went through and I tried to figure out, hey, what's the best way to kind of unlock all the content, unlock all the different ways you can play it, so that when you're in the future, maybe you drop like a new expansion, you can play and fight against the newest boss with all the content and tools kind of at your disposal. And the way I started this game out is I started off as playing as Sir Oofy, and he's the guy with the sword. And if you play with him a whole bunch, you eventually unlock this thing called the Dexecutioner, which is Rapier. And if you do that a whole bunch, you'll eventually get to level 2 and you'll unlock the katana. If you unlock the katana, you unlock the ninja. And the reason that's important is once you play as the ninja, you can start with the katana. So the cool thing is to beat this game, you really don't need every single upgrade. You should play this game just for fun at start, because all you need to do is just farm silver, and the only way you really like optimally farm silver is just by having fun and learning the game. If you just play enough, you'll get upgrades, and on the main screen there will be a way where you can upgrade the number of tome slots and weapon slots that you have. You should prioritize tome slots. If you look in the top left-hand corner, I have 4 tome slots and I have 3 weapons. The weapon that's going to carry you through the boss fight, in my opinion, is going to be the katana. What you want to do is you want to focus on upgrading its size, and then also either its projectile count or its attack speed. If you can do one of those, you'll be golden. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do is you want to have 1 tome by the end of the game, generally during the 3rd stage, that is a defensive tome. You might be like, hey, I want to run Aegis, and you're like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Skip the section of the video. But if you got into the point where you're like, man, Alkaline, I cannot fight this final boss, it keeps beating me, it's because you're farming Aegis up, and it's like giving you this invulnerability, but what you don't know is that the red orbs from this boss actually go through your Aegis. So what you need is you need to farm up either max HP, which is what I did, lifesteal maybe, or HP regen. You need to have at least 1 or 2 tomes that are dedicated towards HP generation. In this one, I don't remember if I went 1 or 2, but those are really good ones to run. Things like XP tome, projectile tomes are really great. During the run, generally what you're going to want to do is upgrade your tomes, because if you notice, during this boss fight, he takes away all your weapons except your starting weapon, which is why unlocking Ninja with Katana to me was so important. You can also do Bandit, but I think Bandit's a lot harder to play. It's less forgiving with your positioning. When you play as Katana guy, like when you're playing as Ninja, you have a lot more move speed, and you have a lot more jump height, and like I don't have to be right next to the guy to have my rapier stabbing him the whole time. And so you want to upgrade your tomes most of the time, because you're going to be stuck with just your katana, so you want to have either your katana upgraded or your tomes upgraded, because your tomes aren't going to be robbed from your towards this stage of the game. Now, your tomes, the thing is you might be like, oh, these tome upgrades are a lot of times weaker than the weapon upgrades. But you have to remember that your tomes don't just affect one weapon, they affect all 3 or 4 of your weapons that you had. And if you're looking at this run, I did this run with just 3 weapons, not 4 unlocked. And it, like, I didn't think I was going to make it through it, but it's actually not too bad, especially once you get all the upgrades. If you get all the upgrades, like, this game is just, it can get fairly easy to just play to win and not necessarily farm a crazy high score or something. A few other things that you want to try to do during your run is you'll have these shrines that give you options to choose between different upgrades. And 2 upgrades that are oftentimes very slept on, I think, from when I've seen friends play and everything, is to get a single shield upgrade and to get a singular move speed upgrade and to get a singular jump upgrade. You need just a little bit, like 5 to 10% move speed increase. That way you can dodge some of the tracer attacks from this boss. If you don't have that, good luck dodging, you're probably going to lose the final boss fight. Additionally, the more double jumps you have, as long as you're always saving a double jump, that gives you sort of get out of jail free card to dodge these really dangerous like red orbs projectiles that he fires during the end of the boss fight. The other thing is if you're fighting this final boss, the shields really help. If you look in the top left, it says I have like 430 HP, and I have 6 shields. This game has damage gating, kind of like Star Citizen, where let's say I take a giant cannon shot for 1,000 damage. Well, that shield will actually block all 1,000 damage. It'll take up all my 6 damage shields, but that singular projectile will only get through my shields. Just like right there, you see, I still have 336 HP, but my shields took the first burst of the damage. Additionally, also, one of my Aegis is blocking one of those. Now, if you watch the game now, this is where I really start doing damage, is the Dexecutioner. The Dexecutioner is a crazy weapon. It's kind of a meta slave weapon. If you look at the leaderboards, Bandit is on top for a very good reason, and it's because he's really good at applying on-hit effects. Really, the meta on this game is really comes down to farming items during the game that apply things like bleed, poison, and on-hit effects, and then farming up projectiles count and attack speed. Projectile count and attack speed basically are synonymous to one another, and if you do both, it's crazy. But both of them seem to do a lot better than damage, because most of your damage, if you're really going try-hard sweaty in this game, comes from your items more so than it comes from your actual weapons. The Executioner, the reason it's so good is it comes with its own on-hit effect. So like right here, you can see I've leveled up, and I have things like Size Tome, and I have Lifesteal. And the reason I went Lifesteal, that was a little bit interesting, is because I got a legendary during the run that made it so that if I do Lifesteal, I actually get increased max HP and Overheal. Which wasn't a huge game changer for my entire run. I never really went 200 HP. Like, if I didn't have that legendary, I think I would have been okay. But it was really helpful. Specifically, like, during this time right here, it gets really difficult. But the Executioner has an on-hit effect where if you're hitting weaker enemies, it has a chance to just one-shot kill them automatically. So... And when you fight the final boss, you'll see that there's these little tiny aura areas that you have to sit in to unlock. And basically, the boss is invulnerable during those periods. And it's really difficult because during those periods, you don't have anything to lifesteal off of. So you can't just rely on lifesteal. You need to have either HP regen or max HP or high armor to withstand the damage during those periods when you're fighting in those. And that's also why you really have to have some mobility stats to be able to dodge attacks while you're in that section. So when do you start farming the defensive stats? What I would do is the game has like 3 stages before you fight the final boss. And once you get to stage 3, you can enter the final boss at any time. There's not like a final boss gate guarding the gate for you to go fight the final boss. It's just you can go to the gate at any time. During that stage, because you don't have to reach some sort of DPS check to fight the final boss, I would start farming your, focus everything on farming your defensive stats during that phase. And if you do that, you should hopefully be tanky enough to be able to take on the final thing, while also being able to have enough DPS for the earlier phases to farm up enough XP to do well enough. Hopefully this gives you some insights if you've been struggling getting through the game, or some ideas on how to focus on your leveling, getting permanent upgrades specifically for the weapons and for the armor, and maybe thinking, oh, maybe Surufi's good to grind, that way I can get this Katana and Executioner unlocked. So, specifically a Executioner. So anyways, hopefully that helps. If you have questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll let you know. I think this game has fallen off now at this point. This is a late upload for Megabonk, but this was October 2025, the birth and, I guess, probably fall off of Megabonk.